Ladies and gentlemen, my name is TotalBiscuit. I'm here to ask and answer one simple question. WTF is Heroes of Might and Magic 6. This is the beta version of it, and this is a series that I have played for ages. And yes, this might sound kind of similar to what Lewis said. All I can say is, 1, great minds think alike, and 2, Brits tend to have a great taste in games, as you can very clearly tell. The first time that I ever experienced Heroes of Might and Magic was with Heroes of Might and Magic 2, which was actually ported to the Acorn Archimedes system. I got it for my birthday at one point. I can't remember how old I was, honestly, but I loved the damn game to death. I really, really did. In fact, I think I've still got the laminated tech trees, and I remember using those tech trees to create a screen for the monitor, so when playing hot seat gaming, we couldn't peek at what the other guy was doing. Yeah, it was crazy. We used sellotape for it and everything. It looked amazing. I don't think it would fit around my current monitor. We were using very small, boxy monitors back then, but hey, we worked with what we had. Heroes 6. This is coming from Black Hole Entertainment, published by Ubisoft. It is the technically the sixth iteration of the very popular Heroes of Might and Magic franchise, which was in itself a spin-off of two things. One, Might and Magic, which was a series of first-person RPGs, and secondly, King's Bounty, which was the predecessor to all of this. And then, just to complicate things, got remade into King's Bounty Armored Princess, and King's Bounty Crossworlds, which are also very good and currently available on Steam, and I believe Gamersgate as well. Yeah, so that makes things complicated. Let's not even talk about the fact that there's a Might and Magic Clash of Fates, which is on the DS, which is actually a strategic puzzle game with some RPG and tactical elements in it. And there's also a free-to-play-ish Facebook game, I think, called Heroes of Might and Magic Legacy or something along those lines. Yeah, is it Kingdoms? Yeah, it's Kingdoms. God, there's too many. Yeah, there's way too many of these. Anyway, so this does go back quite some time, and Heroes 1, 2, and 3 pretty much got universal acclaim. Heroes 4 was where things started to go wrong. Basically, the company at the time, 3DO, was going bust, and they rushed out Heroes 4, and it also had some very odd design decisions that a lot of people didn't agree with, including the fact that heroes actually counted as combat units and could be killed in combat, which I might add was freaking awful and didn't work at all. All sorts of things in that game just did not work. Heroes 5 came out after that. It was, I believe, some kind of Eastern European developer behind that. And then 2 expansions for that, Tribes of the East and Hammers of Fate, not necessarily in that order. Heroes 5 had a lot of problems on launch, but once they got to Tribes of the East, things got really, really good. To the point where they had, I believe, 8 factions, as well as multiple upgrades for each of the units in the game. You could actually choose between one of 2 different upgrades, which would change the way that the unit actually acted, which was very, very cool indeed. A massive skill wheel system and all sorts of great stuff. Heroes 6, well, Heroes 6 changes things up a little bit once again. It is a little bit more old school than Heroes 5, I have to say, in some ways. But it's an interesting mix of the various Heroes of Might and Magic games. So I'm going to stop blathering on about this. Then you've got your little history lesson in Heroes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to load up a game that I've been playing. It isn't a multiplayer, it's actually a skirmish hot seat game. The beta currently has a few campaign missions, plus a hot seat on this map right here, Broken Alliance. This is an old map from Heroes of Might and Magic 2. So this was a big retro thing for me. You do have various options here, as you might imagine, and I am going to kick it off by going here and loading through this. I don't really need to show you the campaign, it's what you would expect, and I can talk a little bit about that while I'm playing this game anyway, so that's a lot of autosaves. There we go. Where is my scenario skirmish? There we go. Broken Alliance. Now I need to find the right one. I think it's this one. Yeah, I'm fairly sure it's Figurivig. Yes, yeah, I'm almost certain it is. Is it Figurivig? Yeah, it probably is. Whatever, we'll go with that anyway. I've been playing quite a few games under various different factions in this, so I have a lot of saved files, and it does seem to autosave every day, so yeah. Been going on for quite some time. Okay, so this is a little bit in. I have a level 3 Necromancer hero here as well, and you'll also notice that for some reason, I think this is just a beta thing only, the world sort of streams in. I don't think this has got anything to do with the online system, as far as I'm aware. I think it's just some weirdness with the beta. I'm assuming this will get fixed, because it is kind of annoying. It only seems to happen once, and then once the whole world's warped in, you're just fine. Now, those of you who are Heroes 2 aficionados will recognize the track in the background. That is from the Grasslands terrain from Heroes 2. It's a remix of it, and there is more Heroes 2 and Heroes 3 themed music in this game, which is very cool indeed. Okay, so here is my town. It's Algary. And you can see the town screen right here. It's animated in video form. Now, the disappointing thing I would say first about this town screen is that it's not as good as Heroes 3, 4, and arguably 5 as well. Hell, not even Heroes 2. Because in its current format, this town screen does not display all of the buildings. Now, some of you will remember the older versions of Heroes whereby the various buildings that you constructed would actually appear on this and you could click on them and things like that. Heroes 5 and to some degree Heroes 4 were very big into sort of consolidating everything, but you could still click on the buildings if you wanted. It was just inconvenient to do so. Here, you can't do that at all. This is just a video file. Now, I don't know if this is beta only, but I know it's caused a great outcry from a lot of people. Personally, it's more of a nostalgia thing than anything else. It actually serves no practical purpose whatsoever. All of the interface options are here. You don't need to be able to click on recruitment buildings in order to recruit stuff. I can recruit everything here, as you've been able to do in the recent Heroes game. So that is a non-issue for me. There's access to the tavern, or in this case, the Hall of Heroes, where you can bring in various heroes. You can recruit all sorts. There's a lot of options there, as you can see. You can recruit a whole bunch of them, which is quite interesting, really, because in previous games you've been limited to only 2, usually one of your type and then one of another, and sometimes you'll see heroes that either had to flee or were defeated in combat, and you can pick up heroes that are higher level. In this case, you're not really finding anything like that. You can check out various abilities and background here as well, but in this case, it's all rank 1. It's pretty much irrelevant. Otherwise, you'd be able to see all manner of cool stuff. Now, this is something to discuss. This is interesting. So they've completely changed the skill system. Now, you may remember in previous Heroes of Might and Magic games, the skill system worked in a kind of random fashion. In Heroes 3, a class would have access to a certain selection of abilities, and I believe there would also be a random chance to get others, and it would be affected based on what kind of class you were. So say if you were part of the wizard faction, and you were a caster, you were a magic hero, chances are you were going to get a lot of magic abilities and things like that. In this case, they've taken the randomness out completely. It's got an awful lot to it. You've got to have a look through it and see just how much there really is. I mean, there is quite a lot. And you've got these 5 types right here under Might, and then you've got Magic. Now, this is another change. The Mages Guilds, completely gone. They are not in the game anymore. And as far as I can tell from what I've seen on this map, there are no magic shrines either, so you cannot randomly learn spells. What you will see here are 5 schools of magic: air, earth, water, darkness, and prime. And you will gain access to these when you spend ability points. So you can have whatever spell you want. Some of them are, needless to say, lower tier. There's upgraded versions of them, and there you go. You can see all of that. These are usually not available till you get around level 5. There's a lot of mass versions and upgraded versions and things like that. So there's a stink like a fire magic here. It's very odd, isn't it? But yeah, those are your magic types. Now, some people are gonna violently disagree with that. Personally, I'm kind of alright with it. There are arguments to the effect that some people believe the randomness of hero development in Heroes of Might and Magic was actually part of the charm of the game. To some degree, yes. To other degrees, it was infuriating. If you got a bad hand, you'd end up with useless heroes, and then you'd end up getting ruffle stomped into the ground because you lacked a few key abilities. It was always a pain in the ass, for instance, to not be able to get the level of magic you were looking for, things like that. The skill wheel system in Heroes 5 was also extremely complicated and very obtuse, regardless of how awesome it actually was. So, this system right here, with the spells, of course the spells, as you remember, were also random, so that was a pain in the ass too, because you'd be running around with a set of random spells, and you'd think, oh god, there's this one spell that I want and I can't get, and it's key to my strategy, and there wasn't any reliable way to get it. There were ways of, say, trading spells and stuff, and of course you could have multiple mage guilds and hope that one of those mage guilds happened to have the spell you wanted, but it was a bit of a nightmare, honestly. And yes, it did add to the charm of the previous games, but I don't know if it was required to make it a good game. So these ability trees, and there are an awful lot of choices here, as you can see, they're pretty good, near as I can tell. I mean, I can show you exactly what my hero has, for instance, this level 3 guy right here. Leveling up is a bit slower, but then again, you can speed it up by setting an option on the custom game, so it's not really a big deal. I've got some items here. Flame gold shield right there. Also have a lion shield. I'm not going to use that for the time being. It's actually, I believe, a might class shield. I don't think I can equip it. So this is a magic hero. He can't equip might items and vice versa. So I can give this to my might hero and he can use it. There we go. Some cool items, things like that. Now, special attributes. These are attributes of the army. You'll notice there are a lot of different attributes for each one of these creatures, and it's kind of neat, actually. They have gone pretty in-depth on the amount of passive abilities and effects that a lot of these creatures have, and they do give them a cool sense of uniqueness, and I'm a big, big fan of that. You've got your stats there as well, all sorts of things, your initiative stats. Initiative is like Heroes 3, by the way, if you wanted a comparison, so it's pretty much based on the initiative score, but you'll also see a bar, kind of like in Heroes 5, to show who's going to go when. Maximum health. Morale obviously doesn't matter. Destiny, luck, basically the same thing. And luck does play a factor, needless to say. Okay, so there's these things right here. I'll come back to them in a minute because they're a little bit weird, and I'll have to explain that in relation to the online system. Okay, so magic abilities. You can see exactly what I've grabbed right here. I have Dark Magic, which is a passive ability to give me more magical power in darkness, and I've got the Agony spell as well. And if I recall correctly, I also grabbed something in this, which is in Might. I grabbed Economist 1, which will give me 15% more golden resources when I find things in the map. So you can really dip into whatever. I mean, you can actually create a combo class if you want. There's nothing stopping you, just you're not going to be as effective at it. Most of the time, if you've got a magic hero, you're really going to want to dip a lot of points into this tree as opposed to into the might tree. But you can do it. There's nothing really stopping you. There is a re-specialization feature, but I don't know what enables that. I assume you can't just do it at will, because that would be fairly ridiculous. Right, okay then. I would like to demonstrate that this game has Shark Guard, which is probably the most important thing in the world. I don't want to go after the Shark Guard just yet. They are kind of tough, and there is an awful lot of them. I don't really feel all that confident with that. So there you go. Now, there's a few other things to talk about here. So, you might notice that the number of resources has decreased quite significantly. This is true. They have gotten rid of things like sulfur and mercury and whatever the bollocks the other one was. Was it gems, maybe? I can't remember. Whatever the case, they've gotten rid of all of the rare resources and amalgamated them into the blood crystal. And blood crystal is basically all of those put together. You've otherwise got wood, you've got ore, and you've got gold, just like you would in the previous games. As to whether or not that's a good thing, that is questionable, if I'm totally honest. It really, really is. I'm trying to think just how important a factor it honestly is. A lot of people like sort of scratching around for different resources and using the marketplace to trade. I don't really feel enthusiastic one way or the other. I really, really do not. I actually do not care. It is not something that I find to be important in any way, shape, or form to the Heroes franchise. So, yes, I am not convinced by the argument at all. Now, I'm just showing you right here, you can actually switch between a few different unique buildings. I believe there are 4 in total, 1 on each town tier, and you can only have 2 out of 4 of them. The Wasting Grounds right here, this is quite unpleasant, because this actually applies to something called Area of Control, and this is new to the series. Let me show you what it means. So if we click this down right here, you'll see that this blue area, everything within it is in the control of this fort. Yeah? This town has control of it. Now, this means it sort of affects a number of things, and most importantly is the fact that when you gain control of something like an ore pit, if an enemy hero tries to steal it, they have to stay on that square in order to keep control of it. As soon as they leave, that's it. It doesn't matter. It will revert right back to your control. So you can send minor heroes to try and lock them down, but you can't just steal the ore pits and mines from under someone's nose. because that was infuriating, it was really, really irritating, and the area of control ensures that that does not happen, and area of control also affects a number of other things, but that's really the most important. So if I want anything within this area of control, if I build this, and this is actually kind of neat, so I think I might build one of those, will actually get a damage debuff and a might damage and health debuff, as you can see. So I'm going to build one of those. There we go. So I have one of those. Unfortunately, it doesn't pop out anywhere at all, which kind of makes me sad, honestly. Oh, no, never mind, actually. It does construct there, so there is a little bit of detail. I'm fairly sure that's what I just built there. Pretty sure that wasn't there in the past, but not all of the buildings show up. But that's actually all right. I mean, at least they do demonstrate that a little bit, but I think they could really do some more work on the town screen, though. Anyway, so that's weakened the living creatures in this area. I don't know if I think the shark guard are actually out of range of my area of control. Otherwise, I'd probably go for the shark guard right now. Okay, my mouse is stuck. There we go. Right, another thing to note is the fact that this game is actually now running on a fixed camera perspective. Now, this is the same as all of the other Hum games except for Hum 5, which had a fully 3D camera. Their logic was that they want to be able to hide things. That's actually a good logic. It really is, because in the previous games, particularly a lot of custom and scenario maps, had a lot of hidden stuff, and that was cool. Actually, scratching around and trying to find that hidden stuff was one of the big things that was very enjoyable about Heroes of Might and Magic, and it did matter a lot. I am really pleased that they decided to do that. I think that's a great change. Some people are saying it's lazy. I think it's part of good design when it comes to Heroes of Might and Magic, and it's one of those important principles that, as far as I'm concerned, should remain within the game. The 3D camera worked well in Hum 5, but any opportunity of hiding things, that just disappeared immediately. Well, going to the rally flag is kind of pointless, but I'm going to go there anyway and get some Destiny, so that's nice, and I'll also get a little bit of extra movement speed. Destiny, get some luck, nothing wrong with that. My units are still affected by luck, whereas they are not affected by morale. Okay, let's attack these centaurs, should be easy. I'm going to show you the battle screens. Now, you've probably come to your own conclusion about how good the graphics are up until this point, but I have to say I absolutely adore the graphics style in this game. It really is very good. I've always been a huge fan of Heroes of Might and Magic because they've gone all out to make a very unique graphic style, and they've done exactly the same in this case, and it's worked out extremely well for them by the looks of it. I'm also very, very impressed as regards to the animation quality. I think the animation quality in this game is stellar. The combat animations are very fluid, they're very slick, there are separate animations if you do a critical hit, and some of them are often quite spectacular, so I am really pleased with the amount of care that they've obviously put into this. Also, I should point out that the aesthetic, and indeed the design of the characters, is very cool as well. So we're talking about things like the way that these are designed. I mean, if we have a look at the ghouls, for instance, I mean, there's a lot of detail put in that. It's very, very cool and unique. This right here, whose name I can't even pronounce, actually, yes, the Putrid Lamusu, which is effectively some kind of undead manticore, I believe. Even the skeletons actually look pretty good, and the ghosts as well, so it's really nice. It really, really is. I am a huge fan of what they've done there. There you go, that's the animation for a critical attack right there, and as you can see, they put a lot of effort into it. It looks very, very good indeed. I heard some people complaining about the fact that, oh, the animations take ages to go through. They don't really, because you can speed them up in the settings, so it's irrelevant. Now, you might wonder what I was actually doing right there. This is my faction ability, it's Necromancy 1, and Necromancy works different in this game as compared to the previous series. What you've got is a ability which can be used as a heal and a resurrection in combat. So a undead army is really hard to bring down simply because Necromancy is going to keep raising them from the dead over and over again. So if you remember how the Necrons were, or indeed still are, in Warhammer 40,000, that's pretty much what they're like. Undead armies will just keep coming up and up and up again, and each faction has a unique ability of its own. Clean our way through here. I'm going to keep smacking that about just a little bit. As you can see, he's got a unique ability that allows him to retreat quite nicely, so that's certainly helping him out quite a bit. Now, my ghosts could actually resurrect one of those Lamusu, or I could go in for an attack. I think I'll resurrect one of the Lamusu for the moment. I don't have enough Lamusu. They're quite dangerous, but with only 3 of them, they really don't do a huge amount of damage. What I do want them to be is next to the enemy, because if they're next to the enemy, they've actually got an aura at the start of their turn, which will give the enemy a health debuff, so that's kind of unpleasant. Now, you can't use Necromancy on the Lamusu, but I can use it on the Ghosts in order to bring them right back into the fight again. And, of course, I can cast Agony once it comes off cooldown, so I've got to wait a few turns to go for that again. You can also attack in the process, so I could just do a normal run-of-the-mill attack with my hero there, just a ranged attack. It seems to be lacking some kind of animation there. It could just be the beta. I think what I need to point out is that every problem in this in terms of dodgy animations, particularly the Might heroes, when they attack, their animation doesn't look very good at all. I have a feeling that's going to be polished up. I certainly hope so, at any rate. Certainly something to consider, because otherwise the quality of the animation is very, very good. The quality of the scenery and everything like that is... There is obviously so much care and attention put into it, and that is a very good feeling. As a massive fan of Heroes of Might and Magic, I love that the developers actually give a damn about the franchise. Some people might argue that they don't, because this game does only have 5 factions, and they have taken away some of the rare resources and amalgamated them all. I don't think that means that they disrespect the franchise. I think they just want to bring it forward. Every game has changed something about Home, and for the most part, it's been good. I mean, Home 4 went off the rails quite a bit, but I liked a lot of the things they did in Home 5, and I'm like a lot of things they're doing in Home 6 as well. Seems like a very slick game, a game that is highly enjoyable. It's still got an awful lot of depth to it, as far as I can tell. Okay, let's grab some abilities. So, I'm not level 5 yet. That would be nice, because I'll be able to nab some stuff in here. I might take another spell. Despair might be good. Life Drain. Attacks target friend. Yeah, the descriptions in this game are still a bit dodgy because obviously they're in beta, there's a lot of placeholder stuff. But yeah, I think I'm going to have one of those. Let's get some Life Drain. Delicious. You'll also notice that you have faction abilities that can then be upgraded depending on level, and also reputation abilities. These are interesting. The reputation system is kind of odd. Let me show it to you. So there is now what is basically a morality system within this game. And that is strange. Very strange, to say the least. If I recall correctly, I was sure it was around here. Huh. I know there's a way to access that. I'm trying to remember what it is. There's a way to access the reputation screen so that you can see exactly what you're doing. It's background story. We're not so interested in that. Odd. Yeah, I can't remember what the button is. The interface at this point is still a little bit confusing, as much as I wish that it wasn't. So you've got 2 sides of this morality sort of coin. You've got tears and you've got blood. Now, blood is generally a very aggressive morality, whereas tears, not so much. Kind of passive, kind of friendly. It's not really good and evil per se, considering that we've got the Necromancer faction here, which is pretty much purely evil, but you can still go into tears if you want. In fact, I think my hero here has quite a bit. There you go. See reputation right there. My reputation is actually going in the direction of tears. And once you get access to class-specific abilities, and you can also then unlock advanced classes by getting to a certain reputation. There are multiple special abilities that will actually come into effect if you happen to do that. Also, it changes the appearance of your hero, so it's kind of neat. The reputation system is affected by a number of different things. For instance, if you decide to let creatures flee as opposed to destroy them as they run, you gain tears as opposed to blood. Certain abilities that you cast in combat will do that. Certain events in the campaign and within certain custom maps will cause that to happen. So it's very, very neat, and there's, as a result, I believe 6 different... Is it 6? Yeah, I think it's as a result, there's like 6 different classes per... Yeah, it's per faction. I'm trying to remember here, because there's a lot to take in with this game. Yeah, per faction, I believe there's about 6 different classes. There's a Tears, Advanced Tears version, Advanced Blood version, and then a neutral one, and they all change appearance, and then there's one for Might, and of course one for Magic as well. Bollocks, it's an Inferno-only artifact. That is very, very irritating, but whatever. I think there is a market vendor around here that I can sell that to, so that's not too bad. Let's grab some experience, because that's a lot of experience. There It would be kind of nice to get that, but going up against those, the Mizukami, which are, I believe, elite versions of water elementals, I think not. I am not a fan of that. That Dreamwalk is going to be a pain in the ass to deal with as well. Various buildings around here, as you can see. A stronghold fort. It would be good to attack that, but it looks like I have, without question, no chance of doing that right now. Go to the rally flag once again. At least we're getting to the end of the week, so I can end up getting this hero something. I've always had a problem with my secondary heroes never really gaining enough in terms of their experience and, of course, the size of their army primarily. That's something to really consider. If you don't have a big army, then good luck attacking anything, and as a result, good luck getting any real experience. So you tend to fall further and further behind. Bit of a pain. Now, you might notice that I have a lot of creatures available. So, the Caravan System, which was in place, I believe, in Heroes 5, which allowed you to bring in certain additional creatures from external creature dwellings every week, that's gone. And now, everything within your area of control is a shared pool. So you get a load of extra creatures. In fact, you get so many, it's really hard to buy them all. And I have to wonder if that's going to cause some balance issues at some point. And personally, the Caravan System, I think, did add a degree of depth to the game. Again, it's not something that I consider to be game-breaking in any respect, but it is certainly something to consider. I have to wonder if it was a good idea to get rid of it entirely. I suppose we'll see as we go through the beta. It may or may not affect the balance. And of course, is it something that they really consider? Do they care so much about multiplayer balance? Multiplayer in this game, yes, it is something great for Hot Seat, but the competitive scene is very, very small for Heroes, and the reason is it takes so long to get it done. I mean, the games are turn-based. They take ages, absolutely ages, to get anything worthwhile done, so it is questionable, to say the least, as to how much that's really going to affect things. But I am seeing, even with this building right here, the Graveyard and Acropolis Core Dwelling, is giving creature bonuses to 3 different things, and they're all coming straight into here in the area of control. That is a lot of extra creatures, and it's really hard to buy them all. I mean, this is one of my core creatures, and it's upgraded as well. That's 16 in 1 week. That's a lot of extra creatures. Interesting. Certainly something to consider, however. I'm just trying to give you as much information about this as I can, really, in comparison to the other games. Don't get me wrong, if you actually want my impressions of it, I am really enjoying it to a very, very great degree. There's very little I can say about this game that I don't like. I think perhaps the fact that they're only coming in with 5 factions is not so great. I think that there are some valid concerns about the fact that they don't have alternative upgrades. That said, they didn't have that when the release of Heroes 5 came in. They only got alternate upgrades in the second expansion pack. Now, some people might argue, well, since you have already done this in previous games, you should integrate it in there from the ground up. I don't know if you should. I don't think it hurts the game not to have it. It would be nice, and I think maybe it's something that they can bring in at a later date. I don't know if it's necessarily a good idea to throw that at everyone all at once. I mean, I can certainly handle it, and I know a lot of the Heroes veterans can, but in the majority of the Heroes of Might and Magic games, they have not had alternate upgrades. Heroes 4 actually did this really badly. This is an example of Heroes 4 going off the rails again. Heroes 4, if I recall correctly, made you choose between certain creatures. And upgrades, yeah, there weren't very many of them. Heroes 3 had a linear upgrade for every single creature, if I recall correctly, as does Heroes 6. And Heroes 5 did as well. And then Heroes 5 Tribes of the East said, well, you can have this one or you can have this one. And it was a set of 2 different upgrades that were mutually exclusive to each creature type. And that did add a huge amount of variety. Admittedly, some creatures were obviously useless, but there you go. We shall leave them. There we go. We actually gained some points right there. Those were points to increase our tier's reputation. Now, Maniacs. Oh, those are always unpleasant. Maybe if I get some Spectres in my army, I'll be able to break out of here. Broken Alliance was always a bit of a pain in Heroes 2 because all of this area was blocked off by very powerful creatures and you had to sort of build up. But it was good for hot seat multiplayer because you got a lot of time on your own where you weren't being harassed early on in the game. So things were good in that regard. Better magic defense, that sounds good. There's also an arena, and the arena allows you to fight a selection of monsters, and it's non-lethal as well. If you're able to beat the monsters, you gain a reward. So, as opposed to the old system whereby you just went to an arena and you picked one or the other, in here you actually have to get into a fight in order to get that, so that's pretty neat. I like that a lot. It's a cool feature. I should also point out that the campaign mode apparently has boss fights as well, and some of the custom maps may have these as well. They have different attacks, and they actually have AI and things like that, and rotations. And that's a cool idea. I like that. Okay. I'm trying to think, is there anything I've actually missed? Oh yes, is there going to be a map editor? There is, so I'm told. They were looking to try and get it out before release if possible, but it's more likely it's just going to come out on release now. It's good that they're considering that from the very start. Heroes 5 actually launched with a very small pool of maps. I don't know how many this is going to have. The beta only has a single map, needless to say, in the hot seat play, but that's expected because it is a beta like that. As regards to how many campaigns there are 5, and they supposedly have 4 missions each. The missions are long as hell. I was playing one before this, and I was a good 2 hours into it, and I was not seeing the end of it. So, if you're looking for big campaign stuff, then it is there. I can't really comment on the story because I've never cared. I really have not. I've never cared about the storyline of Heroes ever. You want to know why? To me, it's all about random maps and doing big custom stuff, and that was it. You know, I just used to love doing randomly generated maps and scenarios, and that would be all I would do. And you know what? I loved every second of it. As regards to the storyline, I couldn't give a toss. I didn't care. I just did not care. Some of you do. So I just don't want to make a comment on it, because I couldn't tell you what's good and what is not, simply for that reason. Another example of some very interesting creature design over here, the Kappa. It's kind of a frog with a basin in its head. It's very odd. Let me show it to you. There we go. Now, this guy that I've got right here is actually a Might Hero. I can show you what I deem to be not particularly great animation quality right here. There we go. Also, the ground is sort of bugging out there. I assume that's just a beta problem. That animation is pretty lame, honestly. I was expecting something way better than that, considering the animation quality of, say, the ghouls, as you can see. I mean, look at this. You know, that's good. That is a really good fighting animation. Whereas the hero's just like, meh. You know, it's half a second and then done. I'm not impressed by that. I think that they could definitely do some work there. Okay. So only taking some minor damage. Can beat the snot out of this thing. It's a very odd-looking thing. Did that just backflip over my guy? Apparently it did. That is intriguing. That's a lot of attributes, as you can see right there. Massive numbers of them. Okay. Let's go and smack him around a bit. Kappa's actually a brand of tracksuit over here, so I don't feel bad about killing him one little bit. There we go. That gave me some experience, and we shall grab a pile of ore there as well in the process. That's upgraded Shark Guard. I'm not feeling that at all. Now, I don't think there's any... Oh, no, there is one other thing that I haven't covered yet, and that's the idea of the Conflux. The Conflux is weird. So, let me show it to you. It's probably best just to try and show it to you. It's kind of difficult because most of it doesn't really work in the beta, but there are certain features that are there. So, the Conflux is the online system for this game, and you'll see that I'm actually... level 2 right here on my main account, and this is my account on the Conflux. I have no idea what that gives me at all, but I'm fairly sure it allows me to unlock some stuff as I continually level up. Now, this is the Dynasty Tree, Dynasty, whichever you prefer, and you are able to create heroes here. I've got some test heroes there. I actually had to create them so that the AI could play different heroes in the multiplayer hot seat, because just the beta doesn't support that right now. Now, there are also Dynasty weapons, Dynasty Traits, and these abilities as well. I mean, it tells you exactly what's going on here. For some reason, I was able to put 30 ability points in these. I don't really know why. I don't know why at all. That doesn't make any sense, so I'm not even going to comment on that. But Dynasty Traits can be unlocked by playing through the campaign, and I assume also by leveling up in the overall meta hero system in the Conflux, which is the online. You can see there, I've leveled up to level 2. That took a long time. There's a lot of experience gathered over multiple games in the campaign, as well as multiple skirmish games, that has gotten me to that point. So, here's your Dynasty Traits. You should recognize quite a few of these. Heritage, Gambler, that's a tarot deck. That's basically a minor artifact, which gives you increased destiny. Supply Wagon, 5 or 5 wood. These are the abilities that you are usually able to pick from the start. You can unlock, I think, several of these, and you can actually go in with a very powerful hero initially. Now, if I create a new hero, you can see all sorts of things. Here's the 5 factions: Necropolis, Sanctuary, Haven, Stronghold, and Inferno. Yeah, those are the 5 factions available. You should be able to recognize these, really. I mean, these are fairly obvious. Haven is the sort of knight faction, the feudal one. Sanctuary is a bit weird. This is kind of new. Sanctuary is a sort of an aquatic-themed Japanese race. It's pretty cool, though. It's got some very, very creative monsters in it and units like that. Necropolis, which is what I was playing earlier. You can select your portrait right there if you like. Male and female will change the character avatars, you'd imagine. We can actually have a look at reputation here. Now, these are the differences between this. If I were to go blood reputation, that would turn that into a death knight. If I were to go tears reputation, that would become a bone guard. Now, if I change to magic, that also changes too, so there we go. An embalmer and a reaper. These are old classes from the previous game, so you should recognize those quite a bit. Have a look at some of the others. Sanctuary, a Tide Master, and a Flood Conjurer. War Master and Shogun there, so that's pretty cool. These are awesome. The Vindicator, I think the Inquisitor looks so amazing. Wow, what the hell happened to the textures there? I think that's a beta thing. It was looking much better than that, trust me, earlier. I don't know what the hell's wrong with that, but yeah, Inquisitor, which actually, funnily enough, looks like the Inquisitors from Hum 5, if I recall correctly, so that's pretty awesome. I am a fan. I wonder if the texture work... There we go, texture work works fine on that one, so you can see. That is pretty awesome. You've also got a talent right here, which will give you bonuses. Spirit Walker, talent bonuses for Handler. Please don't crash on me, beta. Don't crash. Please don't crash. Ah, there we go. Okay, it's unfrozen. Enlightenment. So all of this stuff that you were able to do previously and was often part of the hero selection, you can pretty much select which ones you want, and there are a lot of different talents that you can open up with, a huge amount, and I'm actually skipping through all of them right there. There's a good 20 at least, possibly even more than that. So there are a lot of things, an awful lot of things to do, and of course you can name your hero there as well. Now, as regards to Dynasty weapons you pick up in the campaign, these will actually level up with you, and you can assign them to your heroes. So this is very, very cool. And this is also, I believe, linked into the way that the Conflux works with the online system, and you'll be able to acquire different weapons and traits that way. So the online system is very interesting. Oh, it's actually showing me the... There we go. That actually shows you some reputation right there. Those are some of the abilities that you gain if you go all the way from one side to the other. This one's set up to go into blood, so you can see Holy Blades and Word of Light are abilities that I will acquire if I'm into that. That's the one in the middle right there, which everyone gets, and then you can go to this side as well, which will gain you access to these two. Nice and simple. But yeah, the Conflux system is... I would say half DRM and half a social network. I mean, you've got some weird things integrated into it, like, say, Skype integration, which could be kind of handy. A chat system as well as news, and there's obviously a widget button right here, which, by the looks of it, will allow you to add more widgets to this. There is also something called the Conflux Orb, which is nicked directly from Demon's Souls, which allows you to leave messages in-game, and other people can see them. It's kind of cool, but I have a feeling it's going to have a potential for abuse. We'll see. However, they have said that Hero 6 is fully playable offline, so this is optional and just allows you access to some other cool stuff. So I'm kind of happy with the way that they've done it. So that's my overview, folks. That's me talking an awful lot about Heroes of Might and Magic. As you can tell, I have played an awful lot of it. Holy crap, that was a lot of talking. But if I want to conclude on this game, there are some minor gripes, and I think some of the changes may have an effect in the long run that we don't want to see. That said, I think that the game overall is extremely strong. It is a really good Heroes game. I enjoy it an awful lot. It's very, very slick. It looks fantastic. It feels fantastic. The design is absolutely perfect with the exception of the town screens. I love the aesthetic of the game in a very big way. It's the... A lot of people make arguments that Heroes 3 was the prettiest game, but just because of the design and aesthetic, I have to beg to differ. I think Hero 6 is got it beaten on that one. Even though Heroes 3 had a very distinct aesthetic to it, Heroes 6 goes all out with that, and there's a lot of detail in it. I'm looking forward to seeing this game coming out. I would like to see them add more factions. Perhaps that could be added in DLC later or in larger expansion packs. We have seen Ubisoft add factions to games like Ruse before in an effective way, and that was actually quite cheap as well. So I don't even think they need a fully blown expansion in order to add a faction. Maybe they could just throw one in with a DLC, and I wouldn't complain about that. More factions is a good thing. Okay, folks, there you go. Heroes of Might and Magic 6. Definitely one to look out for. I'm enjoying the beta a huge amount right now. And as far as I'm concerned, it is a very promising entry to the series, and I'm very happy to see it in its current state. Hopefully it'll improve before launch. I'll see you next time.